before we get down to talking about the full moon energy of the full moon in Bharani Nakshatra, which takes place on Halloween of all dates, I wanted to mention to you that I regularly put forward special offers on my astrological services. And this week I'm running a special on both the 60-minute and the 90-minute consultations. So if you'd like to know what the forthcoming eclipse season has in store for you, please feel free to schedule at the link you'll find above. So sometimes we get ourselves in a situation and we didn't intend to get ourselves in a situation. Sound familiar? Sound like a repetitive cycle that happens over and over and over again? Well, guess what? That very same repetitive cycle happens to many other people over and over and over again. Hence the reason I'm here doing this video. But also I'm wanting you to understand that even though you may not like your present state of circumstances, on one level, you know that in getting into it, you got into it with the best of intents, right? But now that you're stuck in it, you're realizing that where you are at the present moment bears no resemblance to the intent that you had. Intent is here too, in starting down this particular road. And so now one part of you goes, gee, I'd really like to be out of this difficult situation, but how do I bow out gracefully? And how do I bow out of this situation diplomatically? So it's likely that, recent weeks, recent days have found you in a position of trying to do your best, A, to either proceed with the situation as it stands, or B, to find a way of getting out of the situation. But it seems like no matter how hard you try to bring resolution, you seem to be kind of digging yourself deeper down into the quicksand. And so you feel stuck. You don't want to back out, because backing out really on one level doesn't feel right. But notice that key word, feel right. Okay? Because in your mind, in reflecting upon your ethics in regards to the particular situation that you're dealing with, and the fact that you're dealing with this very same situation with another individual or with another party, you feel that the best way to handle it is to approach it in a diplomatic manner that allows both parties to keep their dignity intact and equally not to let their cool get blown, right? But occasionally, sometimes you can be so stuck in a particular process that the only way that you're going to find any level of resolution with that particular state of circumstances is to at first create a dividing line, create a boundary at the present moment in order to shift the dynamic of a particular situation. So you can find a space where, perhaps an agreement can be met. And so you can find a space where this can be handled in a dignified manner for both parties involved. There has to be a big shift in the present circumstance. You can't sort this out from within the situation in the way that it stands, right? Or rather, you probably could sort it out, but it would take a lot longer. It would actually do more injury to both parties involved than it would help both parties involved. And the dignity of both parties involved would likely get more, injured. And I'm not talking about pride, I'm talking about dignity, which, sure, on one level, you can argue that dignity can't really be injured, right? But the way we project that dignity can, right? So the next thing you're going to go, isn't that pride? Well, yeah, but maybe that's a level of healthy pride. And maybe that's a level of healthy pride that we need to have intact in order to engage in our day-to-day circumstances. Whatever the case may be, in order to get yourself out, you have to create a boundary. In order to create that boundary at the present moment, you have to make a rather big shift in the dynamic, in the playing field of the situation, in order to be able to re-engage in a manner that's going to allow a greater degree of progress. Now, this particular full moon cycle in Bharani Nakshatra takes place with the sun in Swati. So the sun and moon interacting with each other, like directly opposite each other, is obviously what creates a full moon. But for those of you who didn't know that, there you go. So there's a lot of restless energy connected to the sun's position in Swati Nakshatra. And with that restless energy, one part of you is ready to move on. Now, both the moon and to a degree the sun are forming angles with Jupiter. And with that particular dynamic with Jupiter in Uttada Ashada Nakshatra, you've been persisting in trying to work your way through a particular situation, but in a manner that's beginning to make you feel like no shift in dynamic is really possible for you. The moon is also receiving an aspect from Mercury, which is presently, or at the time of the full moon, will be in its retrograde cycle through Chitra Nakshatra. That has you reflecting upon how you saw things initially and how you went into a situation based upon how you saw it at that moment, and helps you to understand how that dynamic has, well, to a certain degree, drastically changed and is making you now reconfront your ethics in regard to that situation. You want to do the right thing, but sometimes doing the right thing happens in a way that you least expect. And with this present dynamic, the way to shift the situation and, yes, to find agreement in the future is by first going, look, this has reached a point where both parties are at a stalemate. Maybe it's time to surrender to a change. The way the situation is at present, there's no level playing field for either party involved. As soon as one party tries to level it out, it becomes unlevel for the other one, and it goes back and forth in that particular dynamic. So the only way you're going to have a level playing field is by creating a shift in the circumstance. I think you understand what that relates to. It's a rather drastic shift. One part of you might be going, well, one part of this seems wrong, but ultimately I can get a hint of an idea of how this might be beneficial for both parties involved. Trust your heart on that one. When you make that change, when you make that shift, things will level out. You'll find you have a greater opportunity to create more positive change for both parties that are involved. And if you could use a little bit of help sorting through the difficult situation that's connected to this, or any other difficult situation in your life, I should mention again that I do offer several different levels of astrological service. These are, of course, available through my astrological services page, which you will find linked above. That's going to do it for this look at the full moon in Bharani Nakshatra, which takes place on Halloween, the 31st of October, 2020. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.